Hey everybody, Tom Cherryholmes here with the FujiNet project, and I wanted to do something a little bit different here. We need some example games to really show what FujiNet can actually do. And rather than me going ahead and converting an existing Atari Basic game myself and just revealing it, I decided to do something a bit different to try and get some more people to participate. The idea is to take an existing Atari Basic game and convert it to be played via FujiNet. Now, for this to work really well, the game essentially needs to be turn-based for now because of how FujiNet operates. And I think I found a good game for this. This was a game that was released by Sears. Yes, Sears actually made software libraries for the Atari 800 at the earliest parts of launch. And one of the games that they released was called Oil Wells, which, if you've played Oil Well Basic or one of the many patched incarnations that wound up in the public domain, you know what I'm talking about. But if not, we'll take and go through the game here anyway. So to get started, essentially, what we need to do is we need to mount a copy of the game, and the game is in the under construction folder on atari-f.errata.online. Go ahead and mount that read-only. This is so other people can take and mount this. Do not mount it read-write. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to either our local SD card slot or our local file server. Doesn't matter. Pick whichever one suits you best. And we're going to make a work disk. Call it whatever you want. And since the original disk is 90K, select 90K, sure, and go ahead and mount it in drive 2. Now that this is done, we can actually go ahead and boot right now. And you'll see that this is an Atari DOS 2.5 disk. If we look at the contents on it, we see our DOS files, and Autorun Sys, which actually contains a working in handler assembled for this disk and this memory map. So it loads currently up at address 2200 for now. The relocator still needs to be put in, but the handler worked well enough now that it can be used for game development. So this is an early version of the handler. The game Oil Wells is also present on this disk as well. We need to go ahead and make a copy of it. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and make D1 and D2. Copy the disk. And since there's not much on here, this will take only a moment. Okay, here we go. And if we look, we can see there's drive 2 and there's our disk. Now at this point, we can basically hit the reset and reboot the machine. Get back into config. And go ahead and unmount that for someone else. So we can go ahead, mount our work disk so that we can work on it. Remember to mount it read-write. Gently tap the option key and we'll hit our basic, assuming that you have basic built in. If not, you'll need it. Load Oil Wells, and you'll see it's not that big of a program. Everything is reasonably kind of segmented off into separate modules, so it should be pretty easy to modify. One of the nice things you can do, if you've got your FujiNet printer set up, go ahead and print this, especially because there's no special characters in here, so you can use one of the Atari printers to do a nice little hard copy for reference. Now with that, we're going to go ahead, duck the audio for the Atari down ever so slightly. And we are going to, matter of fact, let me pull that down just a little bit. So it's not too loud. We don't need too much for sound effects here. And we'll just run through the game. The purpose of the game is that you are an oil speculator and you are trying to find oil wells to try and generate the maximum amount of profit from drilling those wells. You can have up to 4 players. So for this, we'll probably use UDP to take and bounce packets back and forth. We'll go ahead and just do 1 player for now. Or actually, let me go ahead, we'll run it again, and I'll do it with 2 players. And at this point, it's actually generating the map of the oil field, which is just a giant array of numbers, essentially with strengths of probabilities for oil to exist. So we now have this ability to, hold on, let me get my joystick going here. We now can position our cursor on the field to go ahead and plot some oil. And we select a spot. There's 64% of oil here, and there's your cost associated with drilling. Each drill, basically for each meter down, $10 per meter, and they drill in increments of, I believe, 1,000 meters. So anyway, keep track of those numbers. They actually help you here. Do you wish to drill? You can push left or right or type yes or no, either way. You can see the cost mounts up as the drill hits down close to the bottom. Ooh, and we hit oil. Okay, well, it's producing $892 per week. We have a cost of $3,500 for that well. So we're looking at 4 weeks before that well actually breaks even. 4.5 weeks. I'm not sure we want to keep that given the amount of cost of actually building that well, so let's go ahead and try to sell it. The next screen here gives us our portfolio, which gives us the ability to sell a well if it's not producing well enough. Pardon the pun. So we go ahead, we want to sell this first well. We go ahead and select yes, and we get a cursor to be able to do so. Now, the way that the game mechanics actually work is that selling a well will sell the well back for half the amount that it cost to get the well in the first place. So you see here we got that was $3,500, so we sold it for $1,750. This is pretty much constant, but whatever. It's just a little detail of the game. There's nothing else to sell, so we'll come back to no, and now Bob can play. Now, the way Bob actually works here is that Bob is actually set up in the second joystick port here. We can take and modify this to pull data from the network if for whatever reason, to get the other players. However we want to do this, but as of right now, it's pulling data from the second joystick. Again, Bob now plays. And since not much seemed to happen right there, I'm going to try to come over here. Ooh, 93%. It's got higher taxes because of a higher probability of oil here, but we're probably going to make a lot more money back. Yeah, let's drill here. Boom. Okay, it only cost us $700 to pull that, and it's pulling $7,618 per week. Oh my gosh. Yes, very good. Okay, so that's Bob's portfolio right there. No, we don't want to sell anything because we've made everything back immediately. No. So, nope. So now Bob is up ahead, and we continue. And so on, and so on, and so on. So it's essentially one big turn all the way through here. Boom. Okay, so the thing about it is of course you can see that the topographical map is public for all players. So once one person knows that they struck it rich in one area, the others know too. Nope. And so on. There we go. Next player. Since we found a good hotspot, we're probably just going to take and drill through here. And so on and so on. The game continues for 15 weeks. And on the start of week 16, it takes and plots a complete summary of the game. As you can see, if you find a good spot, it's always pretty much a foregone conclusion that you're going to have all your players trying to take and compete over a very rich spot. As we can see that we found here, the blue spots represent a very well-producing oil well. And as you can see right here, Bob is just killing it. And there's the scoreboard for week 9, the beginning of week 9. And another one. Jeez. Now, as we look through Bob's portfolio, we actually see that there's a profit and loss on the 4th well. It's not doing so well. We can go ahead and try to sell it. The value that you sell back to actually depreciates. Sorry, that was a correction of what I said earlier, derp. So, go ahead and sell this well. Yep. Sell that well. Good, there to go. Yes. And we're done. The next one. And on to the next one. Bob is beating us by more than more. Nice. And as we can see, we found a darn good little vein here. Moving right along. And that's another good one. Finally, we will finish the game here on week 15, because the next week is literally the plotting stage where you get to see the rest of the map. One well I definitely want to sell, right here. Bam. Nope, done. Almost there. Finally, Bob's last turn here. We'll just take and end it right here. And matter of fact, I will see if there's something down here. No? Okay. Probably not. That one actually cost a bit. That's okay. Finally, we'll go ahead and sell this last well right here. Kind of funny, but we'll actually make a bit of a profit selling that well back. Okay, no. We're done here. And now we get to see a map of the game actually being played. And you'll see that it's very much a gradient map. Gradient or diffusion map, however you want to call it. Pardon me as I drink the last little bit of my coffee. Now, one thing to note here, since we're using a graphics 3 display, we're dealing with essentially a 40 column by 19 display. So there really aren't that many dots that we really need to worry about. We can transfer the whole, I think we can transfer the entire state of the game in one in one packet to all the participants. So the way I propose that this actually get done is using UDP. That way we can have 4 players and there's very little effort involved in transmitting. Receiving might be another issue, but we'll see. We'll work it out as we can. Now, transmitting over UDP is easy enough. You just need to open a channel over the network using UDP. UDP is, of course, the protocol name here, and you have a destination address. Could be a host name, could be an IP address, whatever, with a port number. Once that's done, oops, it looks like we're using channel 1 for something else, so you have to use something else. No big deal. But there we go. And all we have to do to take and send something out, we can either, if you want to put a single byte, you can of course do that, or you can print the content of a variable. Let's have a look and see what we got for variables. X, Y, D, 3 and D, A. We've got some interesting little variables that we might want to send. Let's say D11. Well, that's a 3. Well, if you want to send the contents of that, you can of course do it that way, and it will send it as a string number. So you'll get the value of 3. Sorry. So that just sent that value. Now, of course, you can take and send others. And so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. You can do it in that fashion. You can send a string of variables like this, and then use input and pull them back in this fashion. So lots of ways you can do that. Of course, you can get and put to send them as bytes. It's all your choice. But that's really the essence of what you need to do. Now, UDP is, of course, ethereal, which means it sends and it forgets. There's no guarantee that the packet will get there. So it's a good form to take and acknowledge anything that you get as for each participant to say, okay, I got it, and send each participant, yes, I got it, we're good. Now, how we take and set up game state is entirely up to you. The whole point here is to try and find different ways to express all of this. And of course, I will be available for anybody to take and talk about how to take and do FujiNet communication and how to take and set certain things up. But the point here is to try and work out how to take existing basic games and to convert them over to FujiNet. And I'm looking forward to see what's possible, but I wanted to try and get some participation going. Hopefully this all makes sense. So until next time, guys.